Hello, I'm Luke, the Hard Times Guy. Today I'm going to make what I hope is a short little video. I'm going to make a video talking about one of my friends named Mike Bridwell. And I got a few other things that aren't associated with Mike, but I'm going to put in this video because I just want to document what they are, where they came from. So one of these days when somebody after me is going through stuff and finding things they never saw before or don't know where they came from, this will give them a clue about what's going on. Before I do all that though, I'm going to do a little self-promotion. First thing I want you to do is subscribe to my channel, like this video, and share it with your friends. Pretty easy. Then I want to do a little more self-promotion. I wrote a book. Right there it is. Today, part of this video is I'm going to tell you a story that's in this book. And I'm going to tell you the story because it's about Mike Bridwell. And it's about some of the things going on here in the video. I think I'll end with the story, so I'll start with something that isn't Mike Bridwell, and it's this. The other day, my son-in-law was gomming around in one of the cabinets looking for something. He found this, and what it is, it's some kind of knife. I think that's a skinning knife, but I'm not sure. It's got like a bone handle with some scrimshaw on it. It's not an antique, but it's definitely vintage because it was bought new and given to me a lot of years ago. It was given to me by my friend Bill Roberts. And I wished I had the card that he sent with it, because he sent me a card and had a picture of a bird dog on it. Had a handwritten note on the card, and I still got that somewhere. Just don't know where it's at. But I always kept it because of the handwritten note that he had on it. And then this is another one. That's another knife. And I'm pretty sure Bill sent me that one too. I'm not absolutely sure of it, but 90-some% sure that he sent me that knife. And what that is, a bird hunter's knife. It's in the box. I never did. I never did use it, but I could have. It was nice and pretty and new, and I didn't want to get it messed up, so I never took it out of the box and used it. But it's got a blade on it that's just a typical pocket knife blade. And then that other thing you see on there is what they call a gut hook. And if you're a bird hunter, you might be able to imagine what a gut hook is and how to use one. If you're not, I'm not going to gross anybody out by telling you how to use the gut hook, but that's what that is. American Wildlife Series from Camillus. Bird hunter's knife. My friend Bill Roberts gave me that. Now let's talk about Mike Bridwell. Bird. Most of us called him Bird. Redbird. My dad called him Redbird. And some people called him Birdwell rather than Bridwell. And other people call him names like Asshole and things like that. But for the most part, his friends call him Bird. And I call him Bird a lot of the times. Call him Mike, call him Bird. This is a story about he and I and my dad, and it's in that book, Observations. Mike and I used to bird hunt together when we were young, and we weren't what you call bird hunting partners. During this time that I'm talking about in this story, his partner was a man named Nelson Brannaman. When on a regular basis he and Nelson went bird hunting. They went together as a pair. Mike had a bird dog named Lum, And Nelson had a bird dog named Sugar. Both of them liver and white American field trial pointer stock. And during that time, I did most of my bird hunting with a mutual friend of Mike and I. His name was George Gooden. Everybody called him Bud for the most part. So George and I were bird hunting partners, and Mike and Nelson Brandon were bird hunting partners. But because of our friendship, sometimes we would make exceptions to what we normally did, and we'd go bird hunting together. And this was one of those days. Mike and I made a plan to go bird hunting. It was on a Saturday. My dad had run across the place where there were several coveys of birds, and he'd made acquaintances with the farmer and got permission for us to hunt. And we were supposed to meet him at the farm. He gave us directions about how to get there, and we were supposed to meet him and go hunting that day. And Mike and I met early that morning for breakfast. Had breakfast at a local restaurant, and it was pouring down rain. I mean, it was raining so hard only a moron would have got out in it. But, you know, in those days we worked, and you had so many days that you could bird hunt, and when one of those days was that day, you tried to hunt. Didn't matter. Couldn't waste that day. Had to go to work Monday. So Mike and I set out to go bird hunting. I called Dad and I said, "Dad, it's raining. I know how you are." He said, "Yeah, you do." He said, "I thought I'd raised a smarter son than that." He said, "You surely ain't going today." I said, "Yeah, Mike and I was going to go." He said, "Well, I told the guy you'd be by there, so just tell him who you are and go ahead." So Mike and I went down to Orange County. We found the place. We unloaded. I mean, it was raining like pouring pee out of a boot, like a cow peeing on a flat rock. It was coming down in buckets. And we went and hunted anyway, and we found some birds, but they was buried in under some honeysuckle, and they was skittish because of all the noise the rain was making and wild. And Mike's bird dog, he couldn't behave himself, and he had them daggone birds scattered all over the place. I don't think we fired a shot, but we saw lots of birds fly. We hunted most of the morning, got soaking wet. I mean, clear to the. If we'd have went in the house and stripped down to our underwear and took our underwear off, you could have wrung a bucket of water out of our underwear. We were wet. We went back to, my dad was living in Leipzig at the time, Leipzig, Indiana. We went back to his place. It was close to where this farm was. We went in, his wife made us some grilled cheese sandwiches and some tomato soup. We got warmed up and ate some sandwiches and talked about the morning's hunt. And Dad, he agitated and made fun of us. And we hung our clothes up on a dryer there in the house over the register. I think Dad's wife, I think she turned a fan on them. They got about half dry while we was eating lunch. It quit raining. Clouds all blew away. Sky was blue, fluffy, a few fluffy white clouds behind. Turned into a really nice day, and Dad said, "You know what?" He said, "Down the railroad tracks over behind Fouch's," he said, "there's some birds down the railroad tracks over there." He said, "Maybe we ought to go bird hunting down that way this afternoon." Yeah, it didn't take, me and Mike was all for it. Dad, he's sitting there in his gabardine brown trousers and a kind of a dressy golf shirt. I said, "Well, get your clothes on." He said, "I'm ready. Just need to get my boots on." He reached down and got some about 7.5-inch boots, pulled them on, pulled the laces up a little bit, snug, didn't even bother to tie them, tucked his pant legs down in them. He said, I'm ready to go. Let's go." So I walked out the door, and Mike and I started to get the dogs out of the truck. And Dad said, "What are you doing?" I said, "We're getting the dogs out of the truck. Going to walk down there and go down the railroad tracks." It wasn't a block away. He said, "I ain't walking down there." He said, "Let's drive a truck down there. We can park it next to Fouch's." Give you some idea about how my dad was. So we got in the truck, drove down there, less than a block, got out, started out through there. Dogs, it was a gorgeous place to hunt. Had a railroad track running down one side of it, the whole length of it. Briars and weeds between the railroad track and the fences. And then some low weeds and seed weeds, stuff like ragweed. Inside the fence, out to the bean field, and then there was bean fields. And over on the other side, opposite the railroad tracks, there was a little scrub woods down most of that side, far as you could see, with weeds and other cover in there. And every once in a while there'd be a fence road crossing or a farm road crossing that was growed up, and a ditch or something like that. It was prime bird hunting country. We wasn't finding nothing. We went down through there, and Dad, he's walking, Mike and I are walking, trying to keep the dogs under control, and Dad, he's walking down the grass road. And finally I went over and walked next to him, and Mike, he's over on the other side, and he's yelling at Lum. Which was, that was just what happened when you went hunting with Mike and Lum. Mike was doing this the whole time. Lum, get in here, hunting here. Lum, dang you, turn around, get over here. What are you doing? Lum! Lum! You worthless rip! Lum, get in here! And it was like that, incessantly, the whole time that you hunted with Mike and Lum, because that Lum was a hard-headed pointer that did whatever he wanted to, whenever he wanted to. And Mike was incessantly trying to put him on the end of a string like a robot, but it never happened. So that's how the day was going. We went down through there. We'd been doing that about 20 minutes, 30 minutes. We was quite away from the house. Nothing good was happening. So Dad and I were just going along talking. Finally, Dad, he stopped and he said, "Redbird." Mike looked over at him. He said, "Come here a minute." He said, "What is it?" He said, "I can't." He said, "Come here." He said, "Go around that end there." This bean field was so muddy. If you'd walked across it, you'd have been 6 inches taller by the time you got to where we were, because you'd had mud that thick on the bottom of your boots. But Dad told him, "Go around on that crossroad and come here. Wanted to see something." So Mike, he came over there. Dad said, "Let me see that whistle." And Mike had this whistle. This is Mike's whistle. He had this whistle hanging around his neck, and he held it up there like that. Dad said, "No, take it off. Take it off your neck." Mike took his cap off, took the whistle off, handed it to Dad. Dad looked at it like he was interested in it somehow. Then he took it like this and held it out over that muddy bean field, and he just dropped it right down in the mud. Then he stepped forward, put his foot on it, and just ground his foot back and forth. And he ground it right into the mud. Then he reached down and he got it. He picked it back up like this, and it had a mud ball on it about the size of a baseball, where he had ground it into the mud. And he said, "Here." He handed it back to Mike. I turned to look at Mike. He was having kind of a reddish complexion anyway, but his neck from here up to about the bottom of his ears was red as his shirt, and it was moving up slowly. I could see the steam coming off his forehead. He stammered and stuttered there for a minute. "Hollis, what are you doing? What'd you do to my whistle?" And Dad said, "I don't know if that dog can hunt or not, but we're about to find out." And he said, "I damn sure know that he don't need all that noise and yelling and hollering and carrying on. We all need a little peace, and now we're going to get it." Mike, he dug down in his pocket, come out with a pocket knife. Might have been this one. Don't know. This was Mike's knife. I bought it at an auction after he was dead that his wife had. He took that knife and he went to digging on that whistle, trying to get the mud out of the inside of it and stuff. I mean, it just burned him up. He was mad at my dad. Of course, the hunt went on. Mike didn't say nothing the rest of the day. He didn't blow his whistle or yell at Lum either. I mean, he never got his whistle cleaned out before we got back to the house. We loaded up and headed back to Bedford. On the way home, he said, "You know what?" He said, "When your dad did what he did with my whistle," he said, "boy, it pissed me off." I said, "I knew it did, Mike. I could tell by looking at you. You was a little aggravated." He said, "It's a good thing that it was him and you." He said, "Been anybody else, I'd have kicked his ass." I said, "Michael, he's got a few years on both of us, but I'd be careful before I tried that old man on." He didn't care. He said, "Yeah." He said, "That made me so mad." He said, I could Anyway, that's that story. And this knife, it's an old case knife. Not a real good one. I mean, it might have been a good one at one time. I don't know, my eyes aren't good enough. I don't think it's a double X case, but it might be. It's a case. It's in decent shape for an old knife like it is. But it's nothing special. The only reason it's special to me is it belonged to Mike Bridwell, my friend. Like I said, I bought it at an auction. His wife had after he died. Bought this. Bought this whistle. And this is the whistle. Same one. Dad ground into the mud. Bought this whistle. This is another one of Mike's whistles. He liked them little shrill whistles for some reason. I used a big Acme Thunder, made a better, more pleasant noise than these, I always thought. But Mike liked them shrill ones, and he used these. This is another one that he used. But I got them both, and they hang on a lampshade over there, my quail lamp. They hang on it. They belong to Mike Bridwell, my friend. This belonged to Mike Bridwell, my friend. That's why it's special to me. I carry this once in a while. I stick it in my pocket and carry it around to clean my fingernails with. Not always, but if it's not in my pocket, it's usually laying there on the table in the family room with another knife that I use for the same thing, and I'm back and forth between them two knives. Hope you enjoyed them stories. I want to tell a few more Mike Bridwell stories, but that one's in my book. And I just wanted to tell it today. I don't know what today is. Today's Monday something, latter part of April. First part of May, not the first weekend in May, but I think it's the second weekend, but it's maybe the 8th and 9th. It's early in May. I'm going to try to have a yard sale. And so, last thing I want you to do today is keep up with my videos. Watch my videos. Keep up with announcements I might make on YouTube. I'm going to have this place open, and I want you to come to yard sale and buy something from me. Need the money. And if you can't do that, just come out and visit with me. If you live within driving distance of here, Bedford, Indiana, said mark that day down, mark that weekend down. One of them days, come out here and You can look around and I'll tell you stories about lots of this stuff, but today you heard one about Mike Bridwell, my friend. You saw a couple other things that I wanted recorded just for my children and eyes that Bill Roberts gave me, another one of my good friends. I'm a hard times guy. Till the next time, have a good day.